and welcome to Aquanita 24/7. I'm Jamie Rogers. Since launching our show, I've had the pleasure of meeting some incredible people who work behind the scenes to ensure that the horses in Aquanita's care are in tip-top shape for their day at the races. And today I'll be introducing you to yet another consummate professional, farrier John Bunting. At the stables recently, John took us through the intricacies of shoeing a racehorse for their big day. Well, today I have the pleasure of meeting another Aquanita racing employee, and now I'm very excited about this part. This is the farrier, John Bunting, who has been with Aquanita for 5 years now. John, thank you so much for your time today.
Not a worry, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Well, let's start off by looking at your background and how you got into the industry.
Yeah, so I grew up riding horses. Probably started riding, when I was 5 or 6 years old. Hunted through sort of my younger adult years, and then out of school at the end of year 11, and went straight into an apprenticeship as a farrier. So got a cousin that's a farrier. Sort of went work experience with him when I was a younger kid, and yeah, loved it. Loved the industry, and yeah, so I've been coming up 19 years in January. So 4 years apprentice, and then yeah, coming up 15 years qualified.
Well, I'm excited to see how this all takes place. I'll let you get to work, and if you don't mind, we're just going to tune in and see how you do it.
Not a drama at all. So this is Primo Pinksto. She's racing on Sunday. I'm going to put a new pair of back plates on her today. She's a little bit hard on her hinds. Just obviously when they get out in the afternoons, they can sort of be fresh and feeling well, so they bounce around a little bit, and she's just got a bit of a shifted hind here. A little bit of growth and a little bit of wear on the plate, so we'll replace the back ones.
Sounds good.
Come on, baby. So what we're doing here is, first you got to pop up the old nails, so you loosen the shoe off. So yeah, just break all the clenches off. Just remove the old shoe there. Just give it a brush up so we can see what we've got to work with.
So what exactly are you looking for in the horse's shoes right now?
So you want to see sort of how much growth she's got on. You can see this is her frog, so it acts as a pump of blood for the foot. Inside this area here is all sensitive sole, and on the outside here where we can nail through, that's all desensitive, so that's called the hoof wall. And if you look here, you can see the colour change. And this line that runs around here is what attaches the sensitive to the desensitive. That's called the laminae.
And that's where you can put the nail through?
Put the nail through the outside of that, and that's all on this outer edge of this white line.
So how often would you have to change the horse's shoe?
Well, this horse has been done 15 days, so she's most of them get 3 weeks, but with her running on the weekend, they're a little bit shifted and her feet have got a little bit of growth on. Just sort of want to make sure that we get her nice and neat before we send her to the races, so that you try and minimise any risk of her actually losing a shoe. Is that still okay there?
And what would happen if what would be one of the reasons that she could potentially lose a shoe?
Well, like you got to remember, they obviously travel down in the float, so they could be, getting themselves worked up, travelling.
And can you tell us the difference between the different shoes that a horse can wear?
Yeah, definitely. So the rule is that they have to race in a plate that is lighter than, or a shoe that is lighter than 150 grams. Now, there are a couple of what they call steel plates that are on the market, but 99% of horses would race in aluminium, just because you can have a wider material, so give the foot some more support with less weight. So the key is to try and support the foot as much as you can with the least amount of weight. So, especially some trainers really believe that the lighter the foot, you know, it's going to help the horse. And you see this horse here, she's actually had an old infection in her foot, just on this outside toe here. And that there's, so what's happened is at some stage she's damaged her coronary band, which is this band here, and that's just grown down, and now she's at a spot where that's, as you can see, that's all rotten through that section there, but it doesn't actually affect her or the structure of her foot. So we'll just clean that out and put a little bit of fiberglass and Equalox in there, a little bit of foot filler, just so it looks nice and neat.
And so what other issues would you face when you're replacing a shoe?
So probably the biggest thing in racing is you've got to look for back feet. You don't get as many problems as the front feet, because the front feet probably take a lot more weight than the back foot. So you don't get the issues in the hinds that you do in the front. Probably the biggest issue we have in racing is to be able to maintain a good strong hoof structure. So you can see her foot's still quite solid. She's a little bit limited on the outside where we can place nails because she's lost this section at the toe. So it means it takes out your first 2 nail holes that you'd normally use there.
So how would you then keep that from...
So what we do is we drive a nail back further in the heel, and then we'll fill this toe here, and then we can nail through the filler.
And how long would this whole process normally take those shoes?
So to shoe a horse, a standard horse from start to finish, you're looking at 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So once you go extras or sort of, you know, putting fillers in and things like that, then that can sort of eat up a little bit of time. You've got to make sure the horse is standing nice and still. So I'm just running around the inside edge of the shoe now with the round side of my hammer, just so to make sure that you get no excess pressure on the sole of the foot, which is within those sensitive structures. And the main thing is with a horse like this is because they're traveling at such high speeds, you have to make sure the fit is very important, that it's not sitting out anywhere, because it will she'll hit herself on the other leg, which then will create, like you can imagine, they're going at 60 kilometres an hour and she's belting herself with a bit of aluminium, so it can stop them. So it's very important that you've got this shoe nice and level. The foot's got to be level, nice and flat. If they are interfering, then some horses' conformation sort of makes it very difficult for them not to interfere with themselves, and that's when you start beveling shoes out and adjusting heights. So probably the difference between shoeing a racehorse and a performance horse, which is in a more of a slow gait, is that you want the shoe to be an extension of the foot. So you want the foot to be nice and flat, level. If anything, it's more natural for a thoroughbred to wear down the outside a little bit harder. So you've got to be very conscientious of that and keep the inside down, so that just the way they're built and the way their gait is designed for them to power off. So the reason you keep this nice and neat and level on the inside is if they're going to catch themselves, this is the main section here where they're going to catch themselves. So you want to make sure that fits perfectly on the foot, otherwise they are gonna hit themselves with it and then possibly slow themselves down, and it could be enough to lose a race. It's very common for 2-year-olds the first few times they gallop and trial, it's very common for them to come back and they've speedy cut themselves because they're excited, they're going for the first time ever, they're going 1,000 miles an hour, whatever, and they're going too fast for their legs. You know, they're not quite seasoned to it. That's why you'll find that you get some horses that are natural 2-year-olds and some horses aren't. It's all just about immaturity. But if you get a horse that's an older horse and he's hitting himself, then it's usually confirmation. What, baby? So yeah, obviously when we get to Melbourne Cup and things like that, as I said once before, that you know, some trainers, and I believe myself that, you know, Bart Cummings trained more Melbourne Cup winners than anybody, and his philosophy on it was an ounce on the foot's a pound on the back. People argue with it and there's no scientific proof for it, but the fact is he's trained more Melbourne Cup winners than anybody, so I'm happy to go with it. Robert as well, a lot of the time, you know, if we've got a horse going into a big race, we'll reuse plates so that they're lighter. You know, these horses are sort of, once again, every little bit counts when you get to those big races, or any race for some horses, that just having that little bit more of an edge can be enough to let them stick their head out. So once again, there's no scientific proof, but every bit counts.
Well, John, this has been absolutely fascinating. I think we've all learnt so much during this segment, so thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Not a worry at all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I truly hope you enjoyed watching that story as much as we did producing it. And now for the ones to watch over the coming week or so from the Aquanator stable, all powered by Highgain, feeding champion since 1983. Well, that's all for this edition of Aquanator Racing 24/7. We will continue to keep you updated with all the latest news from the trainers, stables, and of course the races on our website, aquanator.com.au. Our next edition of 24/7 will introduce to you all our newest additions to the stable from this week's Karaka Premier Yearling Sales in New Zealand. We hope you'll join us then. Bye for now.